Um, Free Iran. Don't make hijabs mandatory. New York protest IR. What? Oh, something cool here we got.
Do you
Wow. Wow, 60 Seconds really did some interview with Raisi. I didn't know that. So if you don't know who's Raisi, he's the president, I'm just like the current president of Iran. Let's watch a couple of these things here. In the previous video, we were talking about, it's like, I wasn't talking, I was just doing some reaction to what Governor made, we're saying about anxiety, and he was saying the world is the same every day, and we're the ones that bring anxiety in our life, and anxiety is kind of like an impact that society has on us. So I am anxious a little bit these days because whatever that is happening in Iran, and this is actually the cause. This is what is happening in my country, which made me anxious. So let's go and watch a little bit. First, this is a cool one. I never thought. Let's go and watch that anyway.
do you believe the Holocaust happened?
Let's do this again.
Do you believe the Holocaust happened? That 6 million Jews were slaughtered?
ببینید مسئله تاریخی یک مسئله
Look, historical events should be investigated by researchers and historians.
یک نشانه‌هایی هم وجود داره برای اینکه این اتفاق واقع شده.
There are some signs that it happened. If so, they should allow it to be investigated and researched.
So you're not sure. I'm getting that. You're not sure. What about Israel's right to exist?
ببینید مردم فلسطین یک
You see, the people of Palestine are the reality. This is the right of the people of Palestine who are forced to leave their houses and motherland. The Americans are supporting this false regime there to take root and be established there.
Okay, where's the full interview? I really want to. Cool. Found it. Do you see any similarities between the Palestinian-Israel conflict and that of an Ukrainian conflict? Don't ask that question from Raisi anyway. All right, let's get back to what we had here. I'd like to know what is going on. Protests across Iran intensify over deaths of women in custody.
Huge protests in Iran over the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, who died after being arrested by Iran's morality police. She was in their custody, accused of violating rules surrounding the wearing of the headscarf. Iranian authorities say that Amini died of heart failure, but her family says she was in good health before she was arrested and had no pre-existing heart condition. With us now is CNN chief international anchor Christian Amanpour. Christian, we see these protests. We see the women on the streets there. And those are acts of bravery.
I mean, they really are,
right
because
there.
you're seeing not just the protests, you're seeing women go on social media, cutting their hair in protest. You see some in the streets, even elderly women. We saw at least one burning their hijabs. This has been a pattern of protest for several years, but this is the most large-scale ones now, and it's because this young woman was killed, at least that's what her parents are saying, and that's what her family is saying, because they say she was wrongly taken in by the morality police. They say she was wearing her scarf, she had no makeup on, she was visiting Tehran, and was, caught up in a dragnet of these people who drive around, stand at intersections, have their vans, and just, bring in all sorts of women and young girls who they say are not dressed modestly enough. And I have to say that this has been going on much, much more stringently since the election of this current government. Very hardline government in Iran comes after the more reformist government of President Rouhani, and the women are always the barometer. And this government has chosen to crack down hard on social norms and society.
And you, Christian, experienced that more stringent nature yourself. You were actually supposed to interview the Iranian president there in New York at the UN. Tell us about why this didn't happen.
Well, Brianna, it's very unsettling because we were going to have the first exclusive here in New York. He'd already done an interview in Iran with 60 Minutes where the headscarf was also an issue. But there, because it is the custom, one always does wear the headscarf when one's there. That's just, otherwise you couldn't operate as a journalist. Here, in New York or anywhere else outside of Iran, I have never been asked by any Iranian president, and I have interviewed every single one of them since 1995, either inside or outside Iran, never been asked to wear a headscarf. After hours of getting this interview ready, having pre-talks with the president's officials, giving them sort of an idea of what we wanted to ask about, not questions obviously, but an idea. They knew exactly we want to talk about the nuclear deal. We want to talk about Iran's support for Russia against Ukraine. And most importantly, we want to talk about the violation of human rights. At the very end, they come up with this, you know, it's a religious month of mourning and we need you to wear a headscarf. And I very politely declined on behalf of myself and CNN and female journalists everywhere because it is not a requirement, and it was lobbed at us at the very last minute. And very unfortunately, they decided to pull the interview. So it's a problem, and we've had, you know, for instance, the foreign minister of Sweden and others, you know, criticize these protests and the crackdown, the violent crackdown in Iran, and saying women's rights there need to be respected.
How do you read this, Christian? Do you read this as fear of what's happening on the streets in Iran? Obviously not fear of seeing your hair, because that's not what it's about. It seems that they didn't want to talk to you about what's happening right now on the streets.
Well, look, I can't prejudge that because they told us that we had the interview. It was very difficult to get the interview, there's no doubt about that, and a lot of work went into it. I think if I could just guess, and how do I read it, I think that he did not want to be seen with a female without a headscarf in this moment, either because he calls it a religious month or because people would say, how come he's sitting down with an foreign journalist who's not wearing a headscarf, and yet inside Iran they're cracking down on young women who are not wearing their headscarves. But the fact of the matter is the women are wearing their headscarves. Sometimes in protest they take them off. But the authorities, and I know because I've been there and seen it, each year they change their boundaries in their lines. Sometimes the headscarf has to be here. Sometimes it's okay if it's here. You just never quite know what the parameters are. And these women have fallen foul of that.
And Christian, I have to let you go here. We're running out of time. But just very quickly, when you see those protests on the street, I think there's a tendency for people to say, oh, this time it's going to be different.
I'm not sure about that. When you say different, some people I know on the outside say, is this the end?
Right.
Is this a counter-revolution? But I do not think that's the case. I don't think the numbers are there. And I do know, because I've experienced it myself, for instance, in 2009, that the regime has all the power and will crack down very hard.
They crack down so hard. It's so disproportionate that it makes it difficult for anything like this to last very long. Christian Amanpour, thank you so much for...
Okay. Yeah, such a lame excuse from Iran's president. Just asking for a headscarf in religious month. It's kind of like crazy. Even in Islam itself, there is no law that you can put a headscarf on women's head. Like it's not in Quran, I believe. The way that actually hijabs work in Iran, I mean, not in general. Because in general, yes, I think there's something in Islam that says you have to just, cover your hair and stuff like that. But the way that we have it in Iran, like chador and stuff like that you have this long black piece of cloth on your head that makes you look like Batman. Let me just... Chador? I think, yeah. Things like that. We don't have it in Islam. This is made up by us. Like, this is it. Yeah, this is... Okay, does not open that thing. Really? Yeah, this way, this look at this bullshit. But this form of hijab, we don't. I can do this. This form of hijab, I think it does not belong to Islam. It's a made-up thing. But anyway, yeah. What is this? Mahsa Amini, woman in Iran burn headscarves in anti-hijab protests.
Let's turn to other news for the moment, though, because street protests in Iran over the death of a woman in custody have spread to more towns and cities. Mahsa Amini's family claim she was attacked after being arrested by the morality police. They say she died of natural causes. 3 people have so far died in the unrest. This report from BBC Persian's Rana Rahimpour contains details some people may find distressing.
Women in Iran set their headscarves on fire in fury. They are tired of the morality police beating them up and the Islamic Republic leaders who police their every move. Their protest is sparked by the death of this woman. Her name is Mahsa Amini and she was just 22. She was arrested by the morality police in Tehran earlier this month. They said she wasn't wearing the mandatory hijab or headscarf properly. The security forces have released this CCTV footage of Mahsa in detention. It's heavily edited. Suddenly, Mahsa collapses. The authorities say she had a heart condition, but eyewitnesses say she was beaten up in the police van. She's taken to hospital and ends up in a coma. A few days later, she's dead. Women cry, "Death to the dictator," and wave their headscarves at her funeral. The inscription on her gravestone reads that she's not dead. Her name will become a symbol and live forever. Mahsa was Kurdish, but protests are spreading across Iran. A woman stands calmly in front of a water cannon until it has to reverse. And here, a police motorbike is set on fire. The woman filming shouts, "Look, we've got nothing, but we made them run away." As Mahsa's family predicted, her name has already become a symbol of resistance. Rana Rahimpour, BBC News.
Yeah. They call this movement the greatest feminist movement of all time. That men are supporting women in the street because of what it is their rights to just live free. But when we say mandatory or force hijab, it actually violates the feminism right and stuff like that, because it's kind of like their right to be whatever they want. But apparently in Iran, they just things happen to be a little bit different. The morality police and some people in the UK think they're hard done by. I have nothing but empathy for these women, and they're very brave to stand up for their rights and beliefs. Yeah, my mother is English and Irish. My father is Iranian, and I'm so proud of these women and the men standing up with them and for them. This is heartbreaking. I thank God my dad isn't of that mindset. Yeah, this is really sad. This is what actually gave us the anxiety over the past 2 weeks, I guess. Sure. But anyway. I kind of like have nothing to say when it comes to this form of thing. You know, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not so sensitive. I'm not sensitive at all. But you know, even if you're in a funeral that the person who died is not your relative or is not your friend, you cannot be happy. Yeah, and the whole situation, you can't just simply can't because of that impact, you know, the society has on you and your mood. And when I watch such thing, it actually make me think really deep. And all I can do is to be sorry for whatever it is happening to Iranian woman and to Iran itself. Anyway, see you guys later.